different people asked similar questions, and inshallah we'll repeat those principles that we have already learned based on this example or using this example that this letter talks about. तो आज हम एक ख़त पढ़ेंगे और उसका जवाब पढ़ेंगे. हाँ, ये जो उसूल हैं ये हम पहले भी पढ़ चुके हैं और इन्हीं उसूलों को इंशाअल्लाह दोबारा एक दफ़ा दोहरा लेंगे ताकि जहन में वाज़ेह हो जाए और जो लोग नए सुनने वाले हैं उनके लिए भी आसानी हो जाए. So one of the very special things about Hazrat Hakimul Ummat is that he is very practical. He is very practical. A lot of Sufis of his time and a lot of Sufis today and all long time, they were not practical. They would talk about things, conceptual things a lot, and practical aspects of deen or how do they relate to practical aspects, they would not really know or talk about, or were not very skilled to deliver it to people. But a specialty of Hazrat Hakimul Ummat Maulana Ashraf Shah Thani Rahmatullahi Alayhi is that he uses all those principles and tells people how to apply them. So one of the very important principles that keeps on coming again and again is the principle of what is within our control and what is beyond our control. And Hazrat has himself said that if you understand this principle and learn to apply it, then deen will become very easy. Because the problem with a lot of people is that when they want to become religious and they want to work towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are bombarded with many things which are very special, very very different, very unique, and you feel overwhelmed. Or at least when you don't see those things happening to you, then you feel like you are missing out. Well, the reality is that those things that are outside of your control, Allah will not ask you about. And those things that are under your control, these are the things that you are responsible for. What happens is that generally people lose sight of this fact and they run after things that are outside of our control. Why is my things in the world not going straight? Everything should be very good now. Everything should go just according to plan. Or when I'm doing zikr, I should feel a lot of, my feelings should be on the peak inside. All of these things are beyond our control. What is under our control is what Allah has told us to do, we do it. One of the major things that happened in the example that we are going to read today is that this person is writing, must be a Hafiz, and he said that when I lead Taraweeh, then in my mind there is a battle going on. One is that I want to focus on Allah and I want to keep this in my mind that I am standing before Allah and I am reciting the Quran to Him, which is what our focus should be in prayer, because prayer is for Allah, worship is for Allah. We should have it in our mind consciously, actively, that we are standing before Allah. But he's saying that because I have to recite the Quran and I'm a Hafiz, so in Taraweeh, my focus diverts towards not forgetting. That lest I forget, I focus so much that on the next ayah, that I forget the sense of where I am. And I'm only focusing and making sure that I don't forget, and I keep on reciting the Quran fluently, rather than having this in my mind that I am standing before Allah, Allah is looking at me, I am in the sight of Allah, I am doing sajda to Allah, I am doing ruku to Allah. All of that goes away from my mind, and the whole prayer I am constantly I'm thinking about what is the next ayah and how do and this is very natural, what happens to Huffaz and happens to commoners like me as well. So more practical for us is that you must have noticed, and this is 100% of the time for all of us, this is that we start our prayer, even if we have our focus in the beginning, our mind goes here and there. And it becomes, we are standing here, but our mind is way somewhere else, somewhere else. So now we might hear that we should focus in prayer. We should have our constant focus in prayer. We should have istihzar. Istihzar means feeling that we are standing before Allah. But the thing is that what is the reality of focus? What is the extent of focus? How much is needed? What is within our control and what is outside of our control? So these things Hazrat has clarified in many of the lessons of this book, and these are very relevant and very important, because sometimes we read a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ says that whoever reads prayer without attention, then it is thrown back at their face like a piece of worn out clothing. Or Somebody who is standing before Allah and does not think about Allah, does not have consciousness of mind, Allah does not need their salah. Or the Prophet ﷺ has said that this is one of the signs of Qiyamah, that the whole Jamaat will be there, but there will be nobody with khushu', with proper etiquette of salah. So we read those kind of things, and then on the other hand we look at ourselves. If we start judging with the apparent criteria, then none of our prayers are acceptable. And if we take this thought to our mind, then the next thought is, what's the point of praying? Why should we even pray if it's not being accepted? So these are the things that need to be answered, and this is the practical aspect of the tasawwuf that needs to be focused. So I'll read in Urdu first, and then inshallah I'll explain it. हाल तरावीह में कुरान शरीफ सुनाने में खुशू खुजू नहीं होता है। हालांकि हर रकत को जब खड़ा होता हूँ तो ख्याल करता हूँ कि जनाब हक़ ताला की तरफ इज्ज़ो न्याज के साथ तवज्जो रखूँगा, मगर जब कुरान शरीफ शुरू करता हूँ तो इस ख्याल में क़िराअत ख़त्म हो जाती है कि कहीं भूल ना जाऊँ, और रुकू और सुजूद में बहुत अफसोस होता है। हज़रत वाला दुआ फरमा दें कि मेरी ये तमन्ना पूरी हो, और अगर उनको यही मंजूर है तो मैं इसमें खुश हूँ। तहक़ीक़, खुशू सुकून का नाम है, और ये ख्याल कि कहीं भूल ना जाऊँ ये हरकत है जो सुकून की ज़िद है, और कोई शय अपनी ज़िद के साथ मुज्तमे यानी टुगेदर जमा नहीं होती, और ये ख्याल तबअन लाजिम है। कौन सा ख्याल? कि कुरान शरीफ भूल ना जाऊँ। इसलिए हुसूल खुशू इस हालत में आदतन मुतअद्दिर है, यानी उज़्र है, उसका एक्सक्यूज़ है। तो इसका एहतिमाम ही तकलीफ़ माला यताक़ु है, यानी ऐसी चीज़ है जो आपकी ताकत में नहीं है। लेकिन ये खुशू ना होना मुज़िर और काबिल अफसोस इसलिए नहीं कि जो मकसूद है खुशू से, यानी खुशू को जो हासिल है वो ये है कि गैर मकसूद की तरफ तवज्जो ना हो, यानी अल्लाह ताला के अलावा किसी और तरफ तवज्जो ना हो, वो हासिल है। बस गोया खुशू अगर सूरतन नहीं मगर मानन हासिल है, तो क्योंकि ये ख्याल तकमील है ताअत की और ताअत मुतसव्विर है, बस ये तवज्जो इलल मकसूद है। चुनांचे बाज़ अहादीस से फ़ज़्ल खुशू में लम युहदस फ़ीहिमा नफ्सिही बिशैइन मिनद दुनिया, और बाज़ में इल्ला बिखैर वारिद है। हाँ, तबन नागवारी ये नज़ीर है इस्तिग़फ़ार अनिल गैन की। अच्छा, so this person is saying that I start reciting the Quran in Taraweeh, and when I am starting my rakat, I consciously say to myself that I will focus on Allah. But the whole rakat passes in such a way that I am just worried about not forgetting, and then when I go in ruku and I am reminded of what I had thought in the beginning, then I lament. I am very sad. I have sorrow that what did I do? Well, how did my rakat, where did my rakat go? And similarly in sajda. So he is asking for guidance about this, and asking for dua, that make dua for me that I am able to focus on Allah. So Hazrat is saying that before I read the answer in English, I'll explain a few things. One thing is that our mind has been made in such a way that it constantly drifts from here to there. And if you think that I will not think about anything else, that's not possible. If you sit down in a dark room even and you do this experiment, that you will not be able to spend a minute without having some sort of thoughts coming in your mind. This is how our mind is built. Then it keeps on thinking. You sit down, you say, I will not think, I will not think, I will not think, I will not think. You will start on thinking on methods of not thinking. And you will still be thinking something. And then so many things will start coming in your mind. This is how it is, this is how human beings are. So we understand, first thing, that to keep our mind clear of all thoughts is not possible. It's not possible. It's outside of our control. What is within our control is that we can focus our mind on something. Rather than negative, focus on something, the positive side of it. And what we can do is that we can focus on Allah. The methods of focusing on Allah have been mentioned. One is to learn the translation of what we are reading and think about the translation. Or constantly think, the Prophet ﷺ has said, Sallu Salat al-Muwadda'. Pray as a person, like a person who's about to depart from this world, that you've been given a last chance. This salah will get your maghfirat. If you can, get your maghfirat. And start praying like that. Remember, or tell yourself that all these people have not come for this Asr salah or Maghrib salah, they have come for my Janaza salah. So the moment I finish this prayer, I will die. And the coffin and everything is, the carrier is ready outside, and I am the one who's going to be put into the coffin and sent to the graveyard after this prayer. So if we have this in mind, this is another method of focusing. So we focus that we are going to depart, so we are going to, this is my last chance to get forgiveness from Allah, so we can focus. This is one method mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The point of all of these is that rather than thinking that I will not think about anything else, think about Allah. First thing to keep in mind. Now, when we do this, still what will happen is that it takes a long time, a long period of practice until our salah becomes perfect in that regard, and constant practice. And what keeps on happening for most people until their death is that their mind still keeps on drifting here and there. But what is credible for them is that every time they realize that I am standing before Allah, they pull their mind and they pull their thoughts back and put them towards focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As long as they are doing it, they are getting two rewards. One is constant focus on Allah. Second is the reward of mujahada or struggle, that the mind wants to go here and there, because this is our lifestyle. We come to the masjid, we don't stay in the masjid, we don't stay in the prayer state, we have so many things going on, and they definitely have their effect. So what happens is that they always are going through our minds. So it is not possible for us that we can have 100% focus in the prayer. So what is within our control is that as soon as we remember, we pull our mind, we pull our thoughts, and we put them towards focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we do that, then we are getting not only the reward of focusing, but also struggling and sacrificing, which is two rewards. Now this person particularly, this person is saying that I focus on not forgetting. So my focus is shifted away from Allah. And Hazrat is explaining that the khushu'. You heard of this word khushu' and khuzu. So khushu' is lack of movement. Khushu' is lack of movement. Khuzu' and khushu' essentially mean the same thing, lack of movement. One of those terms applies to the whole body, the other applies to the eyes. Khuzu' applies to the eyes and khushu' applies to the whole body. So the khushu' and khuzu' is that the body is not moving, the thoughts are not moving, the thoughts are stationary and focused, the eyes are not looking here and there but looking where they are supposed to look. Now, the placement of eyes is within our control. We've been told when we are standing, we have to look towards where our nose touches in sajda. When we are sitting, we have to look in our lap. When we are in ruku, we have to look at our big toes. When we are doing salam, we have to look at the tip of our shoulder. Did I miss a position? Ruku, sujood, standing, right? In sajda, we have to look straight down or look at the nose. So, don't have to struggle too much and become cross-eyed. Just looking straight down is enough in sajda. So that is khushu' of the eyes. That placing them, this is really called khuzu' technically, that placing the eyes where they are supposed to be and not looking here and there. This is totally within our control. Now comes the khushu' of the body. The khushu' of the body, not scratching, not playing with your beard, not shifting your legs. This comes slowly with practice. Basic overall picture one can get. When they are conscious, they have control over this. And also, slowly and gradually when we practice, then we can learn to stand stationary. The way that has been shown, how to fold hands, where should the neck be, where should the head be, what should be the posture of the body, how should the feet be, all of this we can, with very little practice, with a day's practice, we can bring it into our prayer. Now, the khushu' of the thoughts, the focus or the stationariness, the stationary nature of the thoughts. So Hazrat is saying that khushu' is the name of sukoon, being stationary, not moving. And this thought that lest I forget, will I forget, This is the opposite of being stationary, because there is a constant thought. You are thinking about not doing something. The same thing that I explained, that not doing something or not thinking is also a thought. So therefore, Hazrat is saying that two opposites cannot be collected together in the same place. So if you are looking to be stationary and you are also having this movement of thought that I will not forget, I don't want to forget, I will not forget, then these two cannot be collected together. So therefore, now what do we learn? What comes out of this? What comes out of this is that when you are a human being and you are leading and your job is to complete the Quran and recite the Quran, then this thought will necessarily be there, that I don't forget, I don't want to forget. So this is something that you cannot get rid of, this thought that I don't want to forget. Okay, this is for Huffaz, but what about us? When we are working and we have things going on at our jobs, or things, may Allah protect, going on in our families or with our children, whatever is going on, good things or bad things, it is not possible for us to have 100% focus in prayer. What is possible for us again is that we, as soon as we remember, we remind ourselves that I am standing before Allah. It's not that I will not think about my family, it's that I will think about my Allah. I will realize, I will bring my focus that, oh, Allah is watching, I am reciting, Allah is listening. Or one method, or the other method, oh, I said Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. This means all praise is to the Lord of the worlds. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, He is very merciful. All kinds of mercy is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That way, thinking about what we are saying, or thinking about this is my last prayer. So bring our minds towards that thought. Another method that I missed is that when we are praying, and this is something that works for me, you can pick whatever, pick and choose or try and test, whichever works for you, is that my prayer is this, what I am doing right now. If I am standing, this is my prayer. I forget about the ruku even. I forget about the sajda. Right now when I am standing, this is my whole prayer. Then when I am in ruku, now this is my prayer. I forget about getting up, I forget about doing sajda. When this happens, then you are able to focus on that part. Otherwise, if you think ahead, then what happens is that you think ahead and ahead and ahead and ahead and ahead, and then you think about salam, and then you think about going out to the masjid and going to Walmart and what I have to buy and what my wife told me to bring, all of those things. So therefore, if you think ahead, this is where you are losing focus. Think about, focus on what you are doing right now. That is one method. Another method is, which works for me, is that when I am reciting, I think that Allah is listening. The Prophet ﷺ has said that when the Quran is recited, Allah listens to it more intently than you listen to the songs of a singing lady. So when you are reciting the Quran, Allah is listening. You are reciting it for Allah, so make it your best and focus on, think on that Allah is listening. So anyway, any of these 4 or 5 thoughts, just move your mind towards these positive thoughts, and still stray thoughts would come. Stray thoughts, waswasa. They will still come whenever you realize that, oh, my mind has drifted away, pull it back together towards either one of these thoughts. So they're saying that these two things cannot be together in the mind, that the thought of not forgetting, and the thought of focusing on khushu, or being thoughtless, or by way of the meaning is that being thinking only about Allah. And because you are in such a position, it is necessary, it will be there that you will think about not forgetting. So therefore, in your condition, you are excused. You are excused from, first thing, you are excused from this 100% thought over only being in the presence of Allah. Second thing is that if you think about it, what is the achievement of khushu? What is the purpose of khushu? The purpose of khushu is focus towards Allah. And isn't focusing on the Quran focus towards Allah? So if you are focusing on the Quran, then you are getting what one wants to achieve through khushu, which is thoughts of Allah. And focusing on the Quran is also thinking about Allah. So therefore, it is not really even harmful. Sometimes, there's two things, right? One thing is that this tea has its side effects, it has its harms, but because you are so addicted to it, that the doctor would say, fine, you can have it, right? There's harms, but fine, you are addicted to it, you can take it. Or the next thing is, no, there's no harm for you in there. So Hazrat is saying that not only you are excused, but also there is no harm in that either. Because you are ultimately, actually, in reality, without realizing, you are focusing on Allah because you are focusing on the Quran. So focusing on the Quran in the prayer is actually focusing on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it gets the achievement of khushu'. So Hazrat is saying that although it might not be khushu' apparently, but in reality this is khushu'. And then there's some hadith. One famous hadith says that whoever prays 2 rakat in such a way that he does not have any engagement with his own self, lam yuhdith fihima nafsi, that he does not engage with his own self. Basically, he does not engage with his own thoughts. If somebody prays like that, there is virtues for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives him. But in some narrations of this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has further elaborated, is reported to have elaborated, bishay'in min ad-dunya, that he does not engage with his thoughts from anything of the world. So anything of the deen, which includes Quran, is excluded. Or illa bi khair, does not engage with his own thoughts except the good ones. Then the Prophet ﷺ, in some narrations of this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has made those exceptions. So from this we understand that if a person has thoughts that are ultimately going towards Allah, it is mentioned about Umar Khattab radiallahu anh, and I mentioned this, maybe you remember, that it is mentioned about him that he has said that I resolve the matters of khilafat in my prayer. So people said that this does not make sense, that in prayer you are supposed to focus on Allah, and you are saying that you are resolving the matters of kingdom, khilafat, rule in your prayer. So Haji Imdadullah Sahab Makki, the teacher of Shaykh Hakimul Ummat, he explained this, that the reality of the matter is that the person who is responsible about something, they present their responsibilities, the burden that they have, to Allah in their prayer. And his focus was not shifting away from Allah. He was presenting his responsibilities to Allah in prayer. That, Ya Allah, these problems are there, they are in his mind, and Allah would give him the answers or the solutions to the problems of the kingdom. So this is what he meant when he said that I get the problems of my kingdom resolved in prayer. It's not that he's focusing on something apart from Allah, he's taking those problems to the court of Allah. Similarly, Dr. Sahab Alfi Rahmatullah Alayhi, the compiler of this book, he used to say, don't mind, don't worry, don't lose heart, don't lose hope if you have too many stray thoughts. Make those stray thoughts do sajda to Allah. As you are doing sajda, take those thoughts with you in sajda. You have made them do sajda as well. The essential meaning is that the Prophet ﷺ has also mentioned that whoever, this is not specifically about prayer, but whoever makes all of his concerns into one concern, Allah frees them from all concerns. The meaning is that whoever takes all of their concerns and turns them into one concern, which is how can I please Allah? How can I prepare for the hereafter? Then Allah takes care of all the concerns. Allah takes care of all the worries. So this is essentially what we can do in Salah as well, that whatever stray thoughts that might be there, we forcefully turn towards Allah. And we, as if, take them to Allah and present them before Allah. When we are doing ruku, then those thoughts are also doing ruku before Allah, submitting. When we are doing sajda, those thoughts are also submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the practical way, that first thing to remember is that we are supposed to do as much as within our control. The mind has been built in such a way that it uncontrollably goes here and there. What is under our control is that as soon as we realize, we bring it back. Second thing is that the method of bringing back is not to not think about something, but rather shifting our focus towards something. You cannot run away from something, you can run to something. So run to Allah with your thoughts. And the third thing is, we should remember one of these methods, that either of these work for different methods, work for different people. And then if still we are bothered by them, then we do not need to be bothered. We should be happy that we are getting two rewards. One is of focusing on Allah, and the second is, because why are we calling it focusing on Allah? We are calling it focusing on Allah because with whatever is within our control, we are doing what we are doing. And when we do something which is within our control, Allah accepts it on the whole. When Maryam alayhi salam, she was not born yet. Her mother had promised to Allah that I will dedicate this child of mine to your service, the service of your house, the Baytul Maqdis. Right? Allah has mentioned in the Quran. When she realized that this is going to be a girl, she said to Allah that, Ya Allah, this is going to be a girl. And I have named her Maryam. And I had made this promise that I will dedicate this child to you. So, whatever was within her control, she was doing it. She said to Allah, Ya Allah, this is a girl. Allah has said two things. Allah has said that we accepted it in the best, we gave it the best of acceptance. Number one, we gave it the best of acceptance. And second thing is, laysat dhakaru kal unsa, we made the girl such that no boy is like her. The girl was made such, laysat dhakaru kal unsa, that like that girl there is no boy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted it in such a way. So when we, with whatever we have in our control, when we present that to Allah, Allah accepts it overall. And it's not like Allah says, okay, fine, only in that moment you are focusing, in the other moments you are not focusing. No, all of that is accepted. So that is why we call it that we are focusing on Allah, number one. Number two, we are getting the reward of sacrifice and struggle. That the mind wants to go here and there, but still we are focusing forcefully on Allah. The last thing is that naturally this is not a pleasant thing. You are trying to focus on something and your mind is going here and there. This is definitely not pleasurable. This is not a pleasant state. But this is what it is. This ये नज़ीर है इस्तिग़फ़ार अनिल गैन की. गैन की opposite होता है गैन. Istighfar means returning. Istighfar anil ghain, that this is an example of returning to Allah. This is in a way istighfar from someone else. So the moment you forcefully turn your thoughts towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what does that mean? This means that you are doing istighfar. You are returning to Allah from everything apart from Allah, that is apart from Allah. So this is what it is. Okay, I glanced over two questions that people have asked. One is that the eyes are part of the whole body. Yeah, what makes sense is that a lot of times something that is more important, it is mentioned separately. I don't know if it's a Muslim or non-Muslim who asked this question, but this is our common example. We see this all the time, that whenever something is more important, even if it is part of the whole thing, we particularly mention it. So this is the reason why eyes have been mentioned specifically. Second thing is that Muslims circle around a black stone and kiss, and this is pagan worship. No, the Muslims circle around the black stone because Allah has told us to do it. There is nothing special in that stone. There is nothing special in the Kaaba. It is special because Allah has said, God has said that it is special. That is why. If God would have told us to circle around an animal, we would have done it. If God would have told us to circle around a tree, we would have done it. So it's not the tree, not the stone, not the building that is important. It is the command of the God and the Creator that is important. And that is the reason why we face certain direction. That is the reason why we revolve around the Kaaba, and that is why we kiss the stone. Not because the stone is important, because the command of the Creator is important. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. If you have any questions, please ask. If you have general questions relating to this, or any general public questions. Any questions? Questions? Okay.